The draft keeps getting closer and closer. We've got another prospect profile for you here. I've got Patrick Bexell, European scout for Habs Eyes on the Prize. And we're going to be talking all about Otto Stenberg and whether he could be available for the Blue Jackets at 22nd overall.
You're Locked On Blue Jackets, your daily podcast on the Columbus Blue Jackets. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Blue Jackets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am, as always, your host, Jay Foster, riding solo today. Hayden will be back tomorrow, and I'm here to give you the good, the bad, and the ugly about your favorite team and mine, the Columbus Blue Jackets. Before we get started, I want to thank everyone for making this your first listen of the day every day. Locked On Blue Jackets continues to be free and available on all podcast platforms and also over on YouTube, as well as the SiriusXM app. I also want to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Like I said at the top of the show, it's another prospect profile. Today we're talking about a Swedish prospect who had a really, really good under-18s and whether he could be available for the Blue Jackets to 22nd overall. So I'm just going to turn the conversation over to the recording I did with Patrick because he is much smarter than I am and says things much better than I could. The Blue Jackets are locked in at 22nd overall. There's a bunch of still very good players that are going to be available there. And we are returning, of course, to Sweden, to the Swedish prospects. We've got Patrick Bexell from Habs Eyes on the Prize here. And we're going to talk about Otto Stenberg today, who is a player that I feel like had started to slide in a lot of people's draft rankings. And then he turned up to the under-18s and had just an absolute monster tournament. Who, what was it, 16 points in 7 games? Yeah. You can't...
He was up there. No. I can complain about the ref in the final, but that's about
it. So let's talk about Stenberg's, just game as a whole. What kind of player are you getting if you draft Stenberg?
Actually, it's interesting that you mentioned that because Expressen, one of the top 2 newspapers, numbers wise, maybe not quality wise, just had a very good interview in regards to Otto Stenberg, and they are still considering Frölunda, that is still considering developing him as a center, which is not something maybe we saw as highly touted before the under 18s, but after the under 18s there was a lot of talk about it. Right now, as development is at the moment, they are still considering him as a forward or as a wing, but he could be moved in with a better physique and with a better pace to his game. Because let's face it, he's played in the SHL for the full year or most of the year, 23 games, 7 minutes of time on ice on average. So it's all that. But really, he's a shooter first, and that's something that we might forget from time to time. He's strong with the puck. He has a fast release on his wrist shot. Sometimes he can be a little bit lax. I think it's because when I watched him in the under 20s playoffs, he played against peers. And it's not like, you put all the national team players in one go as you do in the US, and then you play college teams. But here you play actually, regular season teams. There are 1 or 2 players that might be stars or future SHLers on each team, but the drop-off is quite big. So it might just be that coming down to playing the playoffs is sort of made him look a little bit more relaxed and I wouldn't say bad, but I expected a bit more, but it might just have been the surroundings as well. And I'm apologizing here. I'm looking like I'm about to die. I'm not. I just took down a tree in the garden and I'm sweating like crazy. So I'm sorry. Just be glad you can't smell me.
Patrick's having a busy Sunday, apparently.
Well, it's a long weekend and we have a yard, so let's do a
You might
little
as
bit
well.
of every day.
Let's talk about the gap in the draft rankings, because looking on Elite Prospects, he's ranked anywhere from 14th overall to 50th overall.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of updates that hasn't gone through yet past the under 18s or under 18s. So I think that's part of it. You saw obviously Pronman came out and had him at top 10 in his latest ranking, and is there a bit of recency bias as well? Because let's face it, not many of the American big scouts watches the European prospects day to day. They watch them just at the big tournaments, so you don't really watch them in regards to development overall. They see them at Linka, they see them maybe at the under 20 worlds or world juniors, but and then they see them at under 18s. They don't follow the leagues as they should do, probably, if they are supposed to be an educated scout. And I'm saying that and standing by it for real. But I mean, like, I'm not saying I'm an educated scout, because I'm always making that caveat that I don't watch enough of junior hockey in the US. So I can rank the European prospects sort of well, but I cannot rank the outside the top 3. Maybe I can't rank the North American prospects because I don't watch them enough.
Yeah, for sure. That's the thing I always think about in terms of scouting is you see a lot of people that like specialize in, like you say, like European scouts or CHL or NCAA, and then you see a couple of guys that apparently just kind of are able to do it all, and that's so impressive to me that you can take all of the 400 draft eligible teenagers and make the time to pay attention to all of them and rank them and everything. So, I
think you read up what other people say. Look at their lists on Twitter. Look at those things, and you're probably going to see they read a lot, but how many do they really watch? Which means that they become influenced of others.
Yeah, for sure.
But I mean, like, it's impressive. It's very impressive to even rank 50. If you try to rank the first 2 rounds, you're doing a very, very good job. And I think, kudos to them, because I think if you put it as a full-time job, you probably could do the first 100 relatively good.
Yeah. I know. This is I believe my 20th or my 21st draft profile of this draft. And I'm already like, this is too many. I can't keep track of all of them. So, anyone that does more than kind of the first round is...
Just make sure to tweet out every episode when they are drafted.
Yes, that's going to be my plan.
Yeah.
Hopefully, we'll be having plenty of Swedish talk on the podcast when the Blue Jackets take Leo Carlsson 3rd overall. So,
well, I hope not.
You can't have him at 5th. That's not how this works. I want to talk a little bit about Stenberg in terms of his SHL work this season, because we talked about it a little bit just before recording. And you look at Elite Prospects, basically only gives you points, penalty minutes, and plus minus. We played 23 games with Frölunda this season. He only had 3 points, but like you said, averaging 7 minutes of ice time a game, that feels about right.
That's a point an hour, right?
Near enough, yeah.
Yeah.
In a minute, we're going to get back to my conversation with Patrick about Otto Stenberg. But first, I've got to tell you about eBay Motors, because if you're building a championship team, you have to make sure every player is a perfect fit. And it's the same when it comes to your vehicle. Every part needs to fit just right. So the next time you need parts and accessories, head on over to eBay Motors. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, you can be sure every part you need fits exactly right the first time around. Just add your ride to my garage, look for the green check to know the part will fit, or get your money back. Because just like in sports, confidence is the name of the game when you shop on eBay Motors. With over 122 million parts to choose from, you will be back in the game in no time. After all, it's easy to bring home a win when the right parts are guaranteed. Get the right parts, the right fit, and the right prices on ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to US customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. It's
so,
not...
I mean, like, that's pretty decent for a 17-year-old.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing I keep coming back to is you look and you're like, oh, we only had 3 points in 23 games, 26 games, 23 games. But he did most of that as a 17-year-old. He doesn't turn 18 until the end of this month.
Late birthday, which is probably going to be something that draws scouts as well. You got almost a full year more of development before you don't have to make a decision, but he will be younger at that time.
Exactly.
So.
And then you look at he had 26 points in 29 games playing in the under 20s again as a 17-year-old. Like, I don't know, it feels super impressive to me.
Yeah, I've spoken with some of his teammates on the under 18s, and I haven't been able to get Stenberg actually, and I haven't really pushed it, but they say he's really good. His skating is really good. We saw that in the under 18s. And what is underrated and what most scout doesn't know, I think, is his leadership qualities. Everyone is raving. He's first in, last out. He leads the team by example. He wants to perform. One guy was joking a little bit, and I think that speaks about his leadership as well, because it makes people can joke about him, and it's all right with him that they do, because he said, he's not that very good at passing. And then he said, but really, I'm on the fourth line, so it's tough to pass me on the bench when he's on the first. and I think that speaks volume, that is something obviously that scout will be keenly aware of, like professionals, like club scouts, because they will have done the interviews, they will have spoken with him, with teammates, with coaches, etc. And I mean, like, the only negative I've found about Stenberg really is that he is a little bit of a hot and cold player. When he goes hot, he goes really hot, and when he goes cold, he squeezes the stick a little bit too hard. But he's supposed to be the leader in an under 18 team as well. So if he does it, I mean, like, if he wants to lead by example and pucks aren't going in or passes going haywire, then that's going to pile up, and you're going to have a problem with confidence, and obviously that will reflect. So I understand the cold spells, but I think it's a really, really highly touted prospect that have gone under the radar far too long, because if he was playing in the one of the junior leagues in Canada, he would probably have 100 120 points at least.
Yeah, it's always so tough to compare players that are playing in Europe. And I feel like we have this conversation every time we talk about a European prospect is, he doesn't have as many points as the guys that are playing CHL or the guys that are playing NCAA, but he's also playing against guys that are,
seasoned professionals that are playing the World Championships right now. That's what
the oldest player in the NCAA is what, 24, 25?
Yeah, something like that.
And even then, it's, that's very rare. So I think it's super impressive for Stenberg to come in as a 17-year-old and be like, I'm going to play SHL hockey. And I'm going to take what I learned there, and I'm going to take it to the under 18s. And then, like you say, be a leader. And I think that's something that the Blue Jackets specifically are super interested in, because I feel like the Blue Jackets have had a handful of locker room problems over the past few years. I think it's better now than it was a couple of years ago, but I was talking to a couple of people, and they're like, you've got to think that Jarmo Kekalainen is drafting for character just as much as skill. And Otto Stenberg seems like a guy that has a lot of both of those things, which is why I think
upside is fantastic. If you get his upside to work, and that's what you're looking for in that late of the round, of the first round, you're starting to draft on upside. The whole second round is upside.
Yeah, exactly. And like, goal scorers go hot and cold. I think the Blue Jackets have seen a lot of streaky players over the past year. So I don't think like streakiness is necessarily a bad thing. I think it, like you say, it depends on what happens during those cold streaks. Do you let it get to you? Do you let that turn into your game? And I think with the right kind of development, the right direction, which again, I think the Blue Jackets are very good at in terms of developing excuse me, in terms of developing prospects, I think we could be seeing an all Swedish first round from the Blue Jackets.
Yeah, don't say that, because we want Leo at 5. But I think he's the interesting thing that hasn't been advertised really in internationally is also that Frölunda is going through a generational shift here. Obviously, Louis Eriksson was joined the team last year. He got in, performed very, very well, wanted to play another year. Frölunda said thanks, but no thanks. Joel Lundqvist retired. And shockingly for quite a few of us that follow Frölunda closely, there was a deal that they bought out Ryan Lash from his last year of the contract. Ryan Lash has been a superstar in Gothenburg and in Europe for almost 10 years, winning the Champions Hockey League scoring trophy for, it seems like every time he's there, he wins it. So there is a shift generational-wise, looking at Otto Stenberg and Dower Nilsson and David Ekblom as well, Enström. Is it Enström? Is it Edström?
Yes.
As well, you have these talent players coming up, and it seems like they want to give them the chance. They will obviously. I can see it more being a little bit like when Joel and Henrik Lundqvist came into Frölunda, and they had like a junior line and a third line that performed very, very well, and they were just told go out there and play and have fun, and succeeded and was one of the best lines in the SHL that year. And thank God I have all three of them in fantasy league that year, because it was a good bottle of wine that I won from my league.
Oh, I believe it.
League friends. But
in a minute, we're going to get back to the end of my conversation with Patrick about Otto Stenberg. But first, I've got to tell you about Birddogs, because I'm just going to go ahead and say it. These are the comfiest pants I have ever worn in my entire life. That's not hyperbole. That's not me saying this because they're a sponsor. They are the most comfortable things I have ever put on my body. They are stretchy fabric. They look great. They feel great. They are super breathable. So, when I'm in California this summer, it's not going to feel like I am wearing a tent. I can't say enough good things about Birddogs. They are a bunch of different designs. You can pick pants, you can pick shorts. They've got khakis, they've got swim trunks. Like, they've got all kinds of things. And if you go to birddogs.com/LockedOnNHL right now, enter promo code LockedOnNHL. They're going to throw in a free custom Birddogs Yeti style tumbler with every order. Once again, that is birddogs.com/LockedOnNHL. Promo code LockedOnNHL for a free custom Birddogs Yeti style tumbler with every order.
I think Otto Stenberg is really a smart player. He wants to perform. He knows what he's going to do. I know for a fact that right now, maybe not Sunday afternoon, but he's working extra with the Frölunda's physio to build up that muscle already now. They're already having preseason training in Frölunda, but he's staying after and building up a little bit more core, building up a little bit more shoulder and leg, and improving his technique in order to improve his technique skating wise.
Yeah, I wonder if that's kind of a boost that the European leagues have, is that their season starts earlier.
Now.
I mean, I work for a team here, and we're already kind of basically putting plans in place for our preseason and our preseason training and
or
things like that.
Training,
May,
or what,
It's
also that the off-season training or preseason training, whatever we want to call it, is centralized. It's not like you do it on your own over there. It's like, here you do it together. You build that community camaraderie. You build all that stuff, and you have the opportunity. Frölunda takes in, or any SHL team takes in specialists in order to help everyone out and becoming a better player. And then you get a month off in July, more or less. So you had about 3 weeks after the playoffs off, and then you have a month off in July, and that's it. The rest is
that sounds like the way to do it, honestly, is you take a break, and then you train, and then you take a break and recover, and then you get back into training. I want to talk about timeline a little bit, because I don't think the Blue Jackets have a specific timeline in mind, but is Stenberg, I assume Stenberg is going to be back in Sweden this October. Is he a guy that you think does one more year
August, right?
and then jumps to AHL, or is he a guy?
It all depends. It all depends. First and foremost, he's drafted out of Sweden. You have 4 years. That's the main thing.
Yeah.
We keep coming back to that. Don't rush it. If you have him 4 years, and he's not going to be a Leo Carlsson that can go in and drive the first line on an AHL unit. He's not going to do that. He's not that player. I can understand Leo Carlsson going to AHL. I can do that. I can understand the team wanting that as well. But when it comes to someone like Stenberg, I would rather play him in Sweden. A little bit. Look at Otto Stenberg, a Montreal prospect. Played all year with SHL. Took tremendous leaps. One of the best players, if not the best junior player. Leo Carlsson was obviously voted the best junior player, and I understand why. But also, Otto Stenberg was probably, after the playoffs, he should have been top 3 in that voting. But, and then if the team goes out, he can go back and play with the under-20s in their playoff run. And I think, you have the opportunity to shift up and down in that regard. Let them do that. Let them have fun. Let them mature a little bit, become better in order to be able to work out when they go abroad, because they will go abroad. It's not that. But I mean, like, essentially what you want if you take them over the 3rd or 4th year is what you got with Artturi Lekkonen, who's now in a Stanley Cup winner with Colorado Avalanche, obviously. But he came into Montreal and took a roster spot directly on the 3rd line. You want that. Then you have freed up a development route for another prospect in North America.
Yeah, for sure. Trust
the organization in SHL. It doesn't matter, or Liga, but especially SHL, which has a little bit of a better record when it comes to later draft picks. Trust the organization. Talk with them. They're used to talking with North American staff. Don't worry about it, and make sure to have that. So I would say NHL player 4 years from now, maybe 5.
Yeah, and again, he'll be 23 then in 5 years' time. So that's still a kid. That's still Still I mean, like, child,
if you take 4 years from now and then autumn, he's still going to be 22, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like, it feels very much like 4 years away. That's so long, and then you realize, he's literally.
And it's not like, let's be honest, it's not like Montreal or Columbus will challenge within those 4 years. Maybe Montreal will.
Well, we'll see.
But also, I mean, like, it's not it's not written on the wall.
No. Blue Jackets, like I said, locked in at 22nd overall with their second first round pick. Do you take Stenberg with that pick if he's available?
Well, as I said earlier in this podcast, I haven't watched enough of American juniors to be able to.
Right.
I know that's around Barlow kind of area, right? Isn't Barlow around 15, 20?
Yeah.
I wasn't impressed with him. So between those two, I probably take Stenberg.
Yeah.
I think Barlow was more physical, more ready game-wise in that regard. But the question is his upside as high as Stenberg's? And I don't think it is.
Yeah, that makes sense. Stenberg is one of those guys that I keep learning more about him, and the more I'm like, maybe I'll just bump him up my rankings a couple. I don't have any kind of serious rankings beyond like, hey, it would be great if the Blue Jackets drafted this guy. But every time I see a highlight or I learn a little bit more about him, I'm like, okay, maybe I'll move him up my list of players that I would like to see at 22nd. But let's finish off. Like I said, Blue Jackets have 3rd overall. I know that you want the Canadians to take Leo Carlsson at 5, but if we take team bias out of it, do you take Carlsson at 3rd?
I'll take Carlsson at 2.
Oh, interesting. You take Carlsson over Fantilli?
Yeah.
Interesting. I'm trying to manifest that the Ducks take Matvei Michkov at 2nd.
Yeah. I wouldn't. I mean, like, the thing is, I've said it on your podcast. I said it on Locked On Sharks, and Scott never has me on, obviously. So I'll steal his show now. But I think, looking at upside, clear upside, and Michkov is coming to the draft, that's going to raise his value directly. There is no doubt that, oh, now I lost his name just for that. First overall.
Bedard.
Bedard, you have to edit that out. There's no doubt that Bedard will be a fantastic NHL player. There's no doubt. But Michkov has the potential to be a superstar.
Yeah. That's what I keep going
That's
back
the
to.
thing. He will do the high. I mean, like, it's a little bit like you getting Ovechkin or you getting
Crosby.
I'm lost. Crosby, yeah.
You're doing
You
great.
see,
It's fine. They're not European.
It's like this tree is haunting me still. No, I think that, I think it comes down to that. You're going to get, Crosby has obviously been an outstanding player, but if Ovechkin was Canadian, he would have been so much more of a superstar than he is. And obviously he wouldn't have to promote Putin as well, which we don't really agree with. But I mean, like, that's what you have to look upon with Michkov. But yeah, I'll probably take, like, if you take complete upside, yes, I'll take Bedard, Michkov, Carlsson, Fantilli. If you go complete upside,
I'm gonna keep hold of that. I think for the draft purpose, not to.
And I'm slighting my own team here.
I'm collecting draft opinions from basically all the prospect guys that I talk to. So,
but I'm that's non-partisan, obviously, because obviously I want Smith to be gone because I think Michkov or Carlsson will be better down the line.
Yeah, that makes sense. If people want to kind of follow your prospect stuff, where can they find you and your work online?
Prospect-wise, it's usually in audio form now with Eyes on the Prize and Absent Minded. But otherwise, I am at Eyes on the Prize, and we'll keep pushing this stuff out. I'm studying to become a full-time teacher. So a second degree at my age, it's tough, but so it takes a little bit of time out of the prospect work, which is also why I'm not at McKeen's anymore. But I got to say, and I got to give my old work a little bit of a credit here as well, because I can still talk to them. I still get updates, and they do an amazing job. I've been involved in it, and it's very interesting. I learned so much. So follow McKeen's and look at their draft guide as well as Eyes on the Prize, because the work that goes into McKeen's and all the draft guides is obviously good. But obviously, I have a former employee.
We love McKeen's. We love McKeen's on this podcast. We're a big fan. And that's all I've got for today. Tomorrow, like I said, Hayden's going to be back. We're doing a couple more player reviews. We're going to be looking at Hunter McCown and Jonu Luotu, two players that only played a couple of games for the Blue Jackets, but one of them especially could be a big part of this Blue Jackets future. So we are going to talk about those guys tomorrow. Thank you for listening. Thank you for making this your first listen of the day every day. Locked On Blue Jackets continues to be free and available on all podcast platforms. We're over on YouTube. You can find us on Twitter at LO_Blue Jackets. You can find me at _Jacob Foster, JAKOB FORSTER. You can find Hayden at HaydenH971. And if you have comments, questions, criticisms, email us at lockedonbluejackets@gmail.com. Until tomorrow, make sure you stay locked on.